Bugatti didn't think that we were going to be able to separate this car in half and put it back together.
We're looking good, we're looking good.
But we managed to do both of them, and on top of that, we managed to get it even started.
The dashboard lit up with 6 words: hybrid system failure. Go to the dealer. Mat Armstrong had just spent £100,000 on a Ferrari that would not start. He flew to Cyprus to buy a wreck that every expert said should have been crushed, and spent another £18,000 trying to bring it back, only to discover Ferrari still controlled access to the car. But why does a manufacturer still control a car he legally owns? And what happens when the company decides he might never get it back? Join us as we find out what heartbreaking tragedy has befallen Mat Armstrong. The Ferrari that only Ferrari could save. Mat Armstrong stood in a Ferrari dealership yard in Cyprus. He has just flown in from the UK with £9,000 worth of original Ferrari parts already packed and ready. The car in front of him was a wreck. Not a minor crash or something that could be fixed easily. The car was destroyed. The suspension has been ripped clean off. The floor is punctured. The wiring harnesses were shredded. Every single airbag in the car had deployed. And the Ferrari dealership that examined it before Mat arrived had already given their official verdict that the car had never been repaired before, not even by Ferrari themselves. But this wasn't just any car. The 296 GTB wasn't just an expensive car. It makes 830 horsepower from a 3-liter V6 paired with an electric motor that together can get you to 100 kilometers per hour before your brain has finished registering that you press the accelerator. Recently, it has cost around £270,000. The previous owner switched off every driver aid it had on an open road, and at that power level, that decision was always going to end one way. The car destroyed itself, and the owner walked away with an insurance check. What remained was a shell that every expert who saw it agreed should go straight to the crusher. Mat saw a challenge. Because the way Mat was raised, a room full of experts telling you something was impossible was never the end of the conversation. It was the beginning of one. He had built his entire channel on that mindset. Not just fixing broken cars, but taking on projects that most people would walk away from the moment they saw the damage. The worse the damage looked, the more determined he became to rebuild it. That way of thinking started in Leicester, where his father, Tony, worked as a mechanic. He learned early by watching him in the garage before going on to become a professional BMX rider. When an injury ended that, he walked back into the garage, bought wrecked cars, and filmed the rebuilds, showing every mistake, every failure. That honesty is what made people trust him. 6.5 million subscribers with a team that depends on him. He has rebuilt an Aston Martin, a Lamborghini Aventador SVJ, and even restored a Ferrari 812 Superfast for his father. The 296 GTB was supposed to be the next one. Every build followed the same pattern. Buy something written off, document everything, and prove it could come back to life. It wasn't just content anymore. It had become his identity, and the reason millions of people followed every project from start to finish. But when Mat reconnected the battery and turned the ignition on for the first time, the dashboard lit up immediately, and the engine did not. Instead, 6 words appeared on the screen. Hybrid system failure. Go to dealer. The crash had caused serious damage deep inside its electronic architecture. A pyrotechnic safety fuse had triggered, permanently cutting power to the car, and the battery management system locked the entire car down. Modern hybrid Ferraris are heavily software-controlled. Once the system detects a major crash, the car can lock itself down electronically to prevent further damage or electrical risk. Restarting it is not as simple as replacing broken parts. The system has to be reauthorized through Ferrari's own diagnostic network. Without that signal, the engine won't start. Mat spent £18,000 on a new hybrid battery. Nothing changed. Ferrari was the only company with the software to fix it. So what exactly was Mat supposed to do next? So he built something that had never existed. Ferrari wanted the car fully rebuilt before they would even look at it. So Mat built something they had never seen before. He managed to source an official Ferrari 296 Challenge body kit, the same ultra-lightweight components used exclusively on the track-only competition version of the 296. Front and rear bumpers, carbon diffuser, lightweight panels, and a large rear wing that looked like it had been pulled directly from a Le Mans prototype. These are not parts you find on a shelf. They are restricted components tied to Ferrari's official motorsport program, allocated to certified teams competing in the company's own racing championships. Getting hold of them at all was a significant achievement, but Mat had something completely different in mind. He was going to build the world's first road-going Ferrari 296 dressed in full race specification. It was never the original intention. At the start, the goal was simple: repair the car and get it running again. But the moment the challenge kit became available, the project changed direction completely. And with it, the scale of what Mat was trying to achieve. The team had to relocate radiators, fabricate entirely custom mounting points, and rework pipework throughout the car just to make the kit fit correctly. The challenge front bumper alone created a major problem. The standard radiators from the GTB simply protruded too far to work with the new bodywork, which meant engineering a solution from scratch before a single panel could go on. The build moved far beyond a standard repair into something that required genuine creative and mechanical problem-solving at every stage. When it was finished, the car in Mat's workshop looked like a Ferrari 296 Challenge race car. The same wing, the same aggressive stance, the same diffuser. Every detail of a car that exists only on closed circuits, sitting in a workshop in the English Midlands, built by a 32-year-old who was not supposed to be able to get anywhere near this. The car community lost its mind. The comments across platforms were overwhelmingly positive. It impressed people who work professionally on cars. Parents wrote in to say their kids had become interested in engineering because of Mat's channel. Some of those viewers went on to work in the automotive industry as a result. And for Mat, that only raised the stakes. He had built something that connected a world most people will never have access to, with people who are told every day that world is not for them. And then, while that car was sitting finished in his workshop, spy photographers near Maranello caught something. Just weeks after Mat had completed his build, camouflaged prototypes of a Ferrari 296 were spotted testing on public roads near the company's headquarters in Italy. The aero package was unmistakable. A deeply revised front bumper with enlarged air intakes, a massive rear diffuser, and an imposing swan neck rear wing pulled directly from the track. Only 296 Challenge. Most automotive journalists reached the same conclusion. Ferrari had been developing a road-going version of the 296 Challenge under wraps, and, according to reports from Italian media, it could produce over 900 horsepower, with a debut expected later in 2026. So if Ferrari already knew this car was coming, why did they let Mat get this far? And what exactly happened when they decided he had gone far enough? Ferrari did something nobody saw coming. The parts had been arriving steadily. Some of the Challenge kit components came through without issue, and the project kept moving. Mat had spent months on it, invested the money, done the fabrication, and built something no one else had managed before. He was close to finishing it. Then he called Ferrari to follow up on the remaining parts, the fenders, radiators, and other key components he still needed. That's when Ferrari told him some of the parts were restricted. He didn't get that information at the start. It came partway through the process, after some of the kit had already been delivered. Ferrari's internal system checked the vehicle identification number attached to the order and flagged it. The car wasn't a certified 296 Challenge race car in an official series. It was a crashed road-going GTB being converted in a private workshop in the UK. It didn't qualify, so the authorization was pulled. By the time Matt realized what was happening, the problem was already unavoidable. Ferrari had already supplied enough of the Challenge kit to completely change the car. The look was there, and a lot of the structural work had already been done. It wasn't a standard road GTB anymore, but without the remaining parts, he couldn't finish it. And he couldn't easily undo what had already been done either. The car was stuck in between, neither a fully road car nor a race car. That left Matt with only one option. He called Ferrari directly, looking for a way forward. Ferrari gave him another condition. Before they would inspect or diagnose the car in any official capacity, it had to go through a certified Ferrari body shop first. The problem was that the car had already been rebuilt outside of official repair procedures. Ferrari's repair data wasn't available to independent builders, and the car was now running a race-spec body kit that was never meant for road registration. That made the inspection requirement almost impossible to meet before anything else could even begin. Then came a condition that made no sense to many people in the car community when they heard about it. Ferrari said they would only diagnose the issue if the car was returned to the exact specification it had at the time of purchase. Every airbag, sensor, light, radiator, and hybrid component had to be put back exactly as it left the factory. That meant Matt would have to rebuild the car first, without any guarantee Ferrari would actually help once it was done, and without knowing if that was even where the problem was. This wasn't a solution. It sent him back to the start. And this kind of behavior from Ferrari wasn't new. In 2020, an Italian court ruled in Ferrari's favor in a case involving a custom builder who had modified one of their cars so heavily that Ferrari argued it damaged their brand reputation, even though the owner had bought the car outright. The case reinforced something people had discussed for years. Buying a Ferrari doesn't always mean full freedom over what you do with it. The company still sets limits on how the cars can be used and modified. There was also something known among collectors as Ferrari's internal blacklist, a register that could block certain owners from buying future models. It wasn't officially public policy, but it had been discussed in enthusiast circles for years as part of the reality of owning the brand. Matt sent Ferrari a direct email asking them to reconsider. He asked for any way forward. He is still waiting for a reply while the car sits idly in his workshop. And while that sits unresolved, the bigger question is how a build like that even got here in the first place, and what Matt actually walked into when he started it. At 32, this is what it actually cost him. The numbers alone are difficult to absorb. Matt paid £100,000 for the wrecked car. He flew to Cyprus with £9,000 in parts and spent £18,000 on a replacement hybrid battery that solved nothing. He sourced and installed an official Ferrari 296 Challenge race kit, which required months of fabrication and a team working long hours to make it fit. He had already committed financially and professionally to a project that, as things stood, had no clear way forward and no guarantee of ever reaching the road. But the financial cost wasn't the biggest problem. Mat Armstrong didn't start with money. He worked evening shifts in a restaurant and rode BMX during the day. When an injury ended that career, he had to start over. He had a camera, the skills his father taught him in the garage, and the decision to learn everything in public while people watched him figure it out. The early videos had bad lighting and no budget, but they were honest, and that honesty is what everything else was built on. By 32, he created something rare. Not just subscribers, revenue, or brand deals, though all of that was real. He had built trust. People followed Mat not because he always got it right, but because he showed when he didn't. He treated mistakes the same way as progress, and left them in the videos instead of cutting them out. He showed his father on camera, giving him advice during builds, and it didn't feel staged. It felt like real work happening in front of the audience. Parents watched it with their kids. Some of those kids later went into the automotive world because of what they saw, not just the cars, but also the sense that they didn't need to come from that world to be part of it. That audience, those millions of people, had been watching the 296 GTB project unfold in real time. They saw the Cyprus footage. The 18,000-pound battery changed nothing. They watched Mat keep going instead of walking away. And then they saw the finished car, a one-of-a-kind 296, unlike anything else on the road, just sitting in his workshop. When Mat's update video went live on March 29, 2026, it passed 2.9 million views in under 48 hours. The reaction showed how closely people were following the project. This wasn't just background viewing for many viewers. They had been tracking it step by step. The delay with Ferrari turned the project into something bigger than a rebuild. It forced a question the automotive industry has been avoiding for years. When software controls the machine, who really owns it? The question Ferrari doesn't want anyone asking. The Ferrari 296 GTB is not a traditional mechanical car. It relies heavily on integrated electronics and software systems working together. The hybrid battery management system is tightly linked with the combustion engine. If one side is shut down or fails, the other cannot function normally without it being reset through the correct system. In a crash, a pyrotechnic fuse is triggered. That fuse is designed to physically break and cut power. Once that happens, it cannot simply be reset or replaced in a workshop. Without Ferrari's diagnostic system, the car stayed locked. And that system wasn't something Mat could access, no matter how much work he put in. Even basic reset functions were hidden behind Ferrari's own software permissions. Even then, certain functions remain locked behind factory-level permissions that independent workshops lack, regardless of their experience or equipment. What this means in practice is something the automotive world hasn't really had to deal with directly before. Mat legally purchased that car. He holds the title. He invested months of skilled labor and hundreds of thousands of pounds into rebuilding it. He produced a result that drew attention across the car community. And Ferrari can still prevent it from moving again, not through any physical failure, but through the software they alone control. For Mat, this wasn't a debate about technology. It meant the car in his workshop could be perfectly rebuilt and still go nowhere. That argument has existed for years in technology, phones, computers, and agricultural machinery, where manufacturers restrict access, lock owners out of diagnostics, and push repairs back through official channels. The automotive industry has been moving in a similar direction for a long time. Mat's situation is simply where that shift becomes visible in a very direct way. Ferrari's position makes sense on paper, but it doesn't change what happened in practice. The 296 Challenge components Mat sourced are part of an official motorsport program. They are allocated, tracked, and restricted because Ferrari runs a controlled racing series where every part is logged through a supervised system. Allowing unrestricted access to those components creates compliance issues, and the 296's high-voltage hybrid system carries real risks if handled incorrectly without the proper certification. From a liability standpoint, Ferrari's requirement for certified repair procedures is understandable. But that doesn't remove the tension created by how it played out. The reaction from the car community wasn't just about the restriction. It was about when it happened. There was no refusal at the start. It came mid-project, after Mat had already committed time, money, and fabrication work into the build. A condition was introduced that required the car to be completed before it could be inspected, even though inspection was part of what determined whether it could be completed. Meanwhile, Ferrari's own factory was quietly testing a 296 in challenge specification on public roads near Maranello, with a debut expected later that year. At the same time, Mat was still waiting for a reply. The car in Mat's workshop is, as things stand, the only road-going 296 in challenge specification in existence. It was built by a 32-year-old from Leicester who learned mechanics from his father, had his career cut short by injury, and rebuilt himself in public through trial and error. The outcome isn't the real issue. It's that the system wasn't designed for someone like him to succeed. If a manufacturer can block a car you legally bought and rebuilt from working through software, do you fully own it, or is ownership still limited by the manufacturer? Ferrari is about to reveal a road-going 296 Challenge Stradale, a car that closely matches what Mat Armstrong built. When that happens, should Ferrari acknowledge his build? Or does a company like Ferrari have no obligation to do so? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.